Now, Typhoon Haiyan, of course, has done terrible damage to the Philippines. First of all, at least 2,357 people have been confirmed dead at this point. There's still talk about how that number could rise to 10,000. 545,000 people have been displaced, which is a huge number, obviously. And a lot of those people are now have no shelter. The rains continue in a lot of areas, and they literally don't have a tent to be under. They have tremendous problems getting food into the area. There's a lot of food that has arrived in Manila, but because of the local airports that are shut down, it's very hard to bring that food in. In fact, there's estimates that 11.5 million people have been affected. So those are people who have either, died, had family members who were killed, injured, suffering through this, been displaced, etc. So a giant toll. Now, unfortunately these days, the U.S. is known for wars in the Middle East in terms of foreign policy, drone strikes, a lot of aggressive behavior. But here we at least had a chance to demonstrate some of the good things that we do. So now the Philippines have been having a lot of trouble with their airports. So the U.S. military brought in basically the cavalry here to help them. So they brought in the USS George Washington, which is a huge aircraft carrier, 21 helicopters, half dozen other U.S. ships, C-130 transport planes, and started bringing in food, water, and shelter. And in fact, the UN's World Food Program distributed, now this is obviously the UN opposed to the US, rice and other items to at least 50,000 people in Tacloban and nearly 10 tons of high energy biscuits. They're trying to get that up to 25 tons. And so for all the people who say that the US never does any good, well, look, understand that they have some perspective and some context. That's way oversimplifying the issue. I am against a lot of our foreign policy, but here's a situation where we do some good in the world, and thank God for that. And look, you can be skeptical about our overall motives and everything, etc., but these people need help. We are among the people giving them help. The whole world is trying to help them. It's not just the U.S. I'm just giving it to you in the context of all the bad stories you hear about U.S. foreign policy. Understand that there's obviously good sides to it as well. And then to all the conservatives who say the UN doesn't do any good, look, if we didn't have the UN, when countries got hit like this, and their airports, their transportation, they're running out of fuel in those areas that are affected, all of that is down and out, well, then the world wouldn't have an organized way of responding. And the United Nations has been enormously helpful in the Philippines. So look, the real story, and we've covered it before, is the typhoon and the disaster in the Philippines. And honestly, some other ramifications of that. Are the storms getting more severe? Is that something we should do, something that needs to be addressed globally in terms of climate change, etc.? But a small portion of that story also, out of that very, very dark cloud, is a silver lining that sometimes the world gets together and we do the right thing by trying to help one another. So that's not a bad thing, as at least the right wing in this country tries to portray it. Oh, they complain about A, foreign aid, and B, the United Nations. Well, here's a situation where both of those things are doing a world of good.